today, and we're discussing her books about William Cooper and especially his response to the Holocaust. So in 1938, Nazi Germany took over Austria, then the Evian conference was held, and then a worse event took place later that year, and it was a real turning point against the Jewish people. German theologian Bonhoeffer observed this period. He said the cross in Germany has been eclipsed by the swastika, and he called on the church to speak for the voiceless and defend the weak and the fatherless. And I really felt that what he said, he was calling that for the German church, but that really sums up what William Cooper did. And so the infamous event was in November of 1938, Kristallnacht. So Barbara, what was Kristallnacht and how did William Cooper respond to it?
Yes, so Kristallnacht means the night of the broken glass. It was on November 9, 1938, and basically Nazi stormtroopers ravaged through Germany, Austria and Sudetenland, and they killed 91 Jews. They burnt and broke the glass in 900 synagogues, 7,000 businesses, also destroyed some homes, and 30,000 Jewish people were rounded up and sent to concentration camps. So it was really the spark that ignited the Holocaust. And so that's why one of my books is called Shattered Lives, Broken Dreams, and it explains what William Cooper and the Aborigines League did and what's been done since then to progress that story.
So it's interesting, the Evian conference was in France, and here in Australia is William Cooper. And as we said before, he's been honoured at Yad Vashem. So how did all these stories come together? What was it that William Cooper did specifically that he was honoured?
Well, basically, there was some response in the Australian media, but very little done by world governments. The President of the US took until the 15th of November to criticise the event. So William Cooper met with the Australian Aborigines League in Melbourne, and they passed a motion against the cruel persecution of Jewish people by Germany, and they decided to have a march or a walk, whatever you prefer to call it, from his home in Footscray to the German consulate in Melbourne. That happened on December the 6th, 1938. And when they got there, and I write about, the amazing thing that actually happened, that you've got this group of Aboriginal people plus a few white supporters with no rights in Australia taking up the rights of the Jewish people, because most of them were Yorta Yorta people, most of them were Christians, and they had been brought up on Negro spirituals at Maloga in particular, about the story of the Jewish people coming out of slavery in Egypt into the Promised Land. And so they had a very strong connection with the Jewish people. The German consul would not give them admittance or receive the letter of protest. So that's what William Cooper is honoured for, because it's one of the few private protests worldwide against Kristallnacht. Much of the world stood silent.
Yeah, and that would have taken a lot of courage, as you say. It really related to what the Jewish people were going through. It's interesting you mentioned the Negro spirituals, because I'm actually reading Bonhoeffer's book at the moment, and he was so touched by the Negro spirituals when he went to America, and that stirred him to stand with the Jewish people. But that's another whole story. So in 2012, you did a reenactment of Cooper's protest walk when you launched your book about it. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I launched my book on the 6th of December 2012, first of all at Shepparton at Rumballara Cooperative, to do it on country first.
Yes.
And on December the 6th, what I did was I had contacted the German consulate and said, we would like to do a reenactment of William Cooper's walk. Michael Pearce was the honorary consul. He was favourable, got in touch with the German embassy in Canberra, got it cleared very quickly. And I said to Michael, look, we'd like to be at the actual site where the consulate was in 1938. And he said, well, it's actually a law firm at the moment and I know them, so I can organise their approval. So that was wonderful. So Abe Schwartz, who has been a long-time Jewish supporter and promoter of the William Cooper story, he organised the Jewish Holocaust Centre in Melbourne, where I launched the book later that night to take part. And we had Jews, Christians, Aborigines, Holocaust survivors, all on this reenactment walk. And it was an amazing time. And when we got there, Uncle Boydie, William Cooper's grandson, gave a copy of the letter that his grandfather, William Cooper, intended to give to the German consulate, gave it to Michael Pearce. Now, what really surprised us was that Michael Pearce apologised for what Germany did in the Holocaust to Jewish people. And so we had all these Holocaust survivors there and children of survivors, and the tears flowed, and it was just such a special occasion. You know, it was just awesome. People were very, very touched. It was a very, very special healing time. And, you know, Norman and I have a ministry of reconciliation, and so this just fitted right into our ministry and calling as well.
That is so powerful, isn't it? Because, I mean, you can't orchestrate things like that. Only God can really set that up, can't he?
Absolutely.
And as you say, the healing that brings is probably immeasurable. The depth that goes to in those what seem to be little small acts, but yet they're so significant, and it's just extraordinary. And praise God for that, for what you've done in that regard. So I understand there's been ongoing involvement with William Cooper's grandson, Uncle Boydie, in promoting the legacy of William Cooper. How's that looked?
Yes, look, before we go to that, can we have a look a little bit more at the government-to-government apology regarding Evian, because with it was just amazing how these two things came together, because they're both about Jewish lives, basically, when you think about it. But we had been lobbying, as I said, for 10 years about this issue of Evian. Amazing, we had a convergence of the Evian and the Kristallnacht protest of William Cooper and the Australian Aborigines League on December the 12th at Yad Vashem in Israel. Norman and I were privileged to be there for it. And at a dinner, Kevin Rudd, who was leading, I think it was 17 MPs, he was foreign minister at the time, and he not only gave this wonderful speech in honour of William Cooper as he was received the chair of resistance to the Holocaust named after him, but also he did a very powerful repentance with regard to Evian. And it was amazing, and it was just so good. We had the culmination of that 10 years. And the next day, Kevin Rudd was at the King David Hotel, a meeting with the Israeli government, and he made the apology again there. So that was so special. And interestingly enough, there's two more little bits to that story. Senator Guy Barnett, who we happened to be at the table with at the dinner at Yad Vashem, when we got back to Australia. He in the Senate in 2011, he made an apology regarding Evian. That's noted in Hansard, and also after the visit of the Christian Allies caucus in 2018, MP Stuart Robert made a similar apology, and a motion of agreement was passed in Parliament. And this happened to be not only the anniversary, I believe the 70th anniversary of the formation of the modern state of Israel, but also the in July the 80th anniversary of Evian as well. So yeah, you know, I really believe that what we set out to do with the help of the Lord has been achieved.
It's so exciting, isn't it, when you put all the dots together, the way God brings these things line upon line, event upon event, and just releases the forgiveness and the cleansing. It's not just an individual thing, but for nations.
Absolutely, and that's been a large part of our focus, has been reconciliation between nations as well. So with regard to Uncle Boydie, there's a bit of poetic justice here, because Abe Schwartz and David Jack and myself formed a team around Uncle Boydie, William Cooper's grandson, and he had, and others joined from time to time, came and went over the years, and basically Uncle Boydie believed there were two unfinished pieces of business from William Cooper. One is a 1930s petition for Aboriginal rights to the King of England, and the Australian government did not deliver that. The other was what we just talked about, the replica of the motion regarding Kristallnacht. So in May, Reconciliation Week 2014, a culmination of a lot of work, Uncle Boydie and Abe and David and I got to meet Peter Cosgrove in Canberra, the Governor-General at the time, and Uncle Boydie gave him a replica of the original 1930s petition, which he later passed on to the Queen. And so then in 2017, there was a visit by Uncle Boydie and David and others to Israel, England, Belgium and Germany, and we saw Uncle Boydie in Israel. You were there too, Ruth, for the 100th anniversary of Beersheba. Uncle Boydie laid a reef and Norman and I laid a reef. But you know what was so significant for Uncle Boydie, as well as visiting England, seeing his nephew Dan Cooper, William Cooper's son's grave in Belgium, where he died in fighting in World War I, and in Germany he actually got to give a copy to the German government of the letter of protest that his grandfather tried to give in 1938. He gave it to the German government, and in last year, in December 6, 2020, for the anniversary of William Cooper and the League's Walk, the German government by Zoom apologised in a meeting for not receiving that in 1938. So all that Uncle Boydie wanted to achieve to promote the legacy and finish the business of his grandfather William Cooper has been done. And amazingly, the current Queen of England, she is the granddaughter of King George, who Uncle Boydie, as the grandson of William Cooper, would have received the petition. So it's amazing poetic justice. Full circle. It's just awesome.
Oh, that's just so exciting. I'm so sorry our time is gone, but it's like, what a joy to talk to you and for these stories to be pulled out and to talked about, and I just encourage listeners to get some of Barbara's books. There's, as I say, 3 about William Cooper, and you can go to her website, barbaramillerbooks.com, barbaramillerbooks.com, and you can get the books and learn more for it. Thank you, Barbara, so much for your time today. It's just been a real joy, and thank you for your wonderful work that you and Norman have done in this reconciliation towards the Jewish people and with the Aboriginal people. It's a story that's not told far and wide enough, and so it's a great joy to have you with us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so